Welcome back to the Honest Speed Show podcast, a podcast dedicated to the full spectrum of power-hungry automotive enthusiasts. We're going to talk about automotive things like diesel, off-road, and performance vehicles. So let's get started. Today we have one of our own, Wes, aka Professor Brock.
Thanks for having me in again.
So today's topic, really excited. So Wes is very wise on this subject. He's into unconventional methods of
getting a job done.
Getting a job done, and that really translates into track cars. So today's topic is
budget-friendly track cars. Cars you don't have to spend $1,500 a weekend to run.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing for any grassroots motorsports enthusiast, whether it's drag racing, whether it's road course, whether it's rallycross, autocross. Yeah, anything. Budget-friendly is the way to go. So, without further ado, Wes, talk a little bit about your experiences in, let's just start with autocross.
I like the autocross. End of the day, it's you get out, you get to drive hard, and learn what your car does, learn about your weaknesses and your cars. I mean, I've autocrossed everything from K-body Chryslers to Miatas to a Neon here or there, and all kinds of junk, to be honest. I'm all over the spectrum of what I like to drive, and I like to mix it up pretty often. I like to stay budget-oriented, and I'm not someone that can afford to spend $400 in tires a weekend, so I have to have a car that's not hard on stuff, and a car that's cheap and easy to maintain, and cheap to buy to begin with, because it's just how I have to do it.
So, to that, when going through a checklist for buying a track car, we'll just stick with like road course right now, road course style, so whether that be rallycross, autocross, road course stuff. What are 5 things that you really look for in a budget-friendly, dual-purpose motorsports vehicle?
I like light cars that are kind of underpowered because it helps you develop as a driver. And I look for cars that are reliable because I don't want to be doing a bunch of stuff every time I drive it. I kind of like being able to drive it and just put it away. Cost of upkeep's a big thing for me because like with Miatas and Neons, for this example, those kind of cars, you put a set of brakes on it for like $20, and there's really not much. They're hard on. You can run a set of tires for a season and that kind of stuff, so it really cuts down on your running costs. Purchasing the car, I don't like buying rusty cars because it's just a pain to work on. And some places will not let you run if you have a super rusty car.
Which is hard to do in Ohio.
It is hard.
So you're buying a lot of your cars, especially your track cars, from Copart or just salvage auctions because you can generally get a pretty true car.
You can. There is some risk in buying them. There's sometimes unforeseen issues with it. But Copart, non-running cars off Craigslist and Facebook and that kind of stuff has worked out really well for me because then you know the car from working on it. And that's a big deal when you're doing everything yourself.
So one thing you would say is not only cleanliness of it, but the approachability to work on it. It's not like you're looking at a 911 or something ridiculous that is proprietary in design, where you're looking at cars that anyone can work on.
Yeah, I mean, my sister's 14 and she swapped a head out on a Neon in our driveway. It's not rocket science to work on that kind of stuff. We've done motors and transmissions and stuff on Neons and Miatas.
In parking lots
and driveways, and they're just easy to work on, and that makes it so nice when it does break, because it's not down for a week while you're working on it. Once you have the parts, it's a day or two. And they both have such a good community with them for these 2 examples that you can hop on any Facebook page, any forum, and get whatever information you need quickly.
So the next thing that kind of ties into that is the availability of the car itself, right?
I don't like having to search for the car I want to drive because, I don't know, I just like being able to hop on any auction site, any Facebook, Craigslist, whatever, and just buy the car that I want. Just get what I need to get and start working on it, getting it ready for the season. And along those lines, the parts availability is a huge thing for me, because with Miatas and Neons and a lot of Hondas and stuff along those lines, you can go into any auto parts store and get that part you need, if it be a sensor, an exhaust gasket, whatever you need. They usually have it in stock, and then you can get back on the track, get back to autocrossing, doing what you want to do. You're not sitting there waiting on parts from who knows where.
So before we get into Car Wars, we're going to talk a lot about, what cars you think kind of fit the criteria of the 5 topics that you talked about earlier. When we talked about, parts availability, the cleanliness, the lightness, and the reliability, cost of upkeep. And then really in there is the availability of the car. So we're going to have 2 price ranges, $2,000 and $5,000. So for $2,000, what are 5 cars that you would recommend? Being that it's tax season and $2,000 is going to be semi-available.
Yeah. I'd recommend a first, second gen Neon, a NA Miata can be had for that. Civics, there's tons of Civic options out there. They're good cars, just not my thing. You could do a Ford Focus of some sort with a manual trans. Very cheap to upkeep. They're pretty competitive cars. And you can do a Toyota Echo, which is kind of on that weird side.
So an Echo, that kind of has me a little bit confused. So why an Echo?
So like the first gen Echo overseas in like Europe, they're kind of a beginner race car, kind of like our Civics and our Miatas. They're just a really good budget car with a set of tires and a little bit of suspension. They're super competitive and cheap to upkeep, good on fuel. I mean, it's a Toyota, it's just dead nuts reliable.
Are there any other Toyota cars that you would recommend?
Celicas. Any gen Celica is a pretty good autocross track day car.
And they're aerodynamic.
Yeah. And if
they're like the ultimate boy racer car.
They are, but they're pretty decent at it, to be honest.
So you said Neons, you're a big Neon guy.
I'm a big Miata guy, too.
Miatas, how many Miatas have you owned?
10 or more at this point.
How about Neons? Did you stop counting? Or
around 10 or so.
10 or so. And we said in the last episode, Wes and a friend have 4 consecutive VIN numbers of ACRs, which I think is that's pretty cool. That's like enthusiast level petty. Like, that's awesome. That is super cool. So we've got Neon, NA Miata, Civic. Any particular gen Civic?
I don't know my Civics enough to recommend them, but like CRXs, EGs, EFs.
So just in that general $2,000 price range.
Yeah.
Because I mean, for $2,000, you're getting let's be honest, a fairly decent car for $2,000.
And on the Focuses, it'd be like a first gen only deal. The ZX3s and the ZX5s are kind of what you want. They can be super competitive rallycross and autocross cars. I know a few people that are competitive with them. 2 options that are a little more upkeep expensive would be like an SN95 Mustang and an NA Subaru of some sort. To be had for under $2,000. They're just a little more money to upkeep than the other options.
Yeah, and we've got a friend, John, who has a Subaru that he did some rallycross stuff with.
Don't get me wrong, Subarus are great cars, but they're just a touch more expensive than Miatas and Neons and Toyotas and Focuses to upkeep.
So those are a little bit more in like that $3,000 range, $3,500.
Well, it's more of like the upkeep side of things to me with those cars, because I know they can be had for $2,000 or less. They're just a little more to upkeep, but they're also a good option. Because we had a SN95 at the shop that was just on rails handling.
So with that being said, $5,000, what can you get?
I think 5 really good $5,000 like daily driver budget track cars. Number 1 for me would be an NB Miata. They can be had for sub $5,000. They're just a good platform, just a little more modern, a little more sorted than the NAs. Don't get me wrong, an NA is still a good car. You can buy a WRX for sub $5,000. Good car. I'd buy one for $5,000.
Now, what about like diff services and things, being that it's all-wheel drive?
You're going to have more in the upkeep costs on a car like that. Like, I personally change all my fluids after every track day. Every second or third event when I'm autocrossing or rallycrossing.
Mm-hmm.
Just keeps things fresh for me. Another good option are E30s and E36s. Even the base model cars are awesome rallycross and autocross cars. Can be bought pretty cheap. They're not terribly expensive to upkeep, and they're just great driving cars. And you can always do a GTI of some sort. If it's a Golf or a Jetta, pretty cheap to upkeep, good handling cars, tons of aftermarket support, and tons of enthusiast support. And a really off-the-wall option that I love are Honda Fits. They're cheap, reliable, they handle well. I'd drive a Fit if I was in the market for something like that.
And so we've got Fits, E30, E36s, a WRX, NB Miata. I mean, those are all really, to be honest, you could take that to the track and drive it home. You don't need a trailer. They're the things that people drive aggressively on the street anyway, so why not drive it aggressively on the track?
Yeah, there's tons of parts available for all these cars. So if you do break it, it's not like you're going to be searching for 6 months for that mysterious CV axle that you broke that you can't find.
Right, because, I mean, you're not going to daily drive something that you can't find parts for, so why would you track something that you can't find parts for?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people tend to overthink the track aspect of it. They're like, oh, well, I got to get a 911 or something with heritage. And it's like, no, you can manhandle your way around the track in a Toyota Echo. Like, if you can do that, yeah, like competitively. And I mean, if you can do that in an Echo or a Fit, you can do it in just about anything.
And a lot of that's taking these under horsepower cars that are good handling cars, and it really helps you develop yourself as a momentum driver and learning how to drive the car, not just powering down the straights and out of the corners. You have to really learn how to drive the car.
Yeah, I mean, so for a lot of people, they are naturally just good drivers. But then, you know, you're a naturally good driver, but you're still taking some, you know, DE courses at, you know, Mid-Ohio through, like, club events and things. What was your first, like, DE car?
It was a Miata, NA Miata. I bought it. The car was pretty trash when I got it, and I put it back to stock.
Now, was that the red one that you had when I started here?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It was slammed on cut Raceland coilovers. They took the helper spring out and cut the spring.
Oh, God.
It was terrible, in my opinion. The windows were blacked out. All the lights on it were painted. It was missing parts.
It was JDM.
Yeah.
Super JDM.
It's
Just no kidding. It was riced out and broed out.
The kid cut a hole in the muffler. It just hurt. I cleaned it up. I drove it a ton. I put 20,000 miles on it when I owned it. It was a good car. It cost me nothing to drive.
You brought it pretty much back to stock, didn't you?
Yeah, minus an exhaust and an intake.
And the Mishimoto radiator. And
yeah, some small odds and ends that just...
Tasteful
yeah.
Performance mods, not like excessiveness.
Yeah, and I used the same set of Falcon Azenia tires for autocross and track days. I did 2 track days and 5 or 6 autocrosses on the same set of tires, and they're still good.
That's just like, that's crazy to me because, so like going into, you know, growing up, I'm like, oh, I want to, you know, not really competitively race, but I want to have fun on the track because it's just, let's be honest, stupid to do it on the street. It seems so unapproachable because of the cost. I mean, the barrier to entry, I thought growing up was like $10,000, and then $5,000 to $1,000 every weekend. Like, that to me was like, that's really cool, but I'm going to have to be a millionaire to do that, even on a low level.
And that's the thing about like light cars and cars that are cheap to upkeep. I used 2mm of brake pad every time I went to Mid-Ohio and did 4 20-minute sessions.
That's impressive.
It just doesn't use consumables. Take gas a day. That's whatever.
And even if you're heavy on the brakes, your pads are still cheap. You can affordably learn how to drive and not, you know, be out hundreds of dollars in pads and rotors and oils and...
Yeah, you just, after every weekend at Mid-Ohio, change the oil, change the diff fluid, trans fluid, and bleed the brakes again just to make sure it's got good fluid in it. You can do it very affordably, but a big, big thing for me, especially when you're buying a used car, is the safety aspect. Make sure ball joints, tie rods, bushings, make sure it's safe. That's just such a big thing for me because I've seen people have wheels fly off, ball joints break, and they just bought the car thinking, oh, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people, like, and this is my look at it, if I wouldn't drive it there and be willing to drive it home, it's probably not going to be good all day.
And I'm the guy that drives a $500 car year-round, My current Neon was a $500 Neon. I've put 70,000 miles on it. It's just been a good car, and if you keep them maintained, they're good cars for a very, very long time.
Yeah, so to that, I mean, I think that really leads us right into Car Wars. Car Wars is a segment we do in our show where we take two cars on paper, hypothetically, in a race, and then see what we can do and see what our guest thinks will happen. We're going to put two of our shop cars head to head. And Wes, tell them what we got.
We got our 1990 Miata. It's a base. I mean, it's just kind of it's the Miata you want to have.
It's bone stock, low miles.
It's just a nice Miata. It's the Miata everyone kind of wants. The other car is my own car. It's a 2001 Dodge Neon ACR.
And you just picked that up. Didn't you?
Just picked that up.
That's kind of what inspired this episode too, because we were talking and you picked it up like dirt cheap. Some people have had meals that cost that much. And so with that, when you said Neon, when I was looking for a track car for this year, I'm like, nobody likes Neons. Like it's a Neon. Like they're just kind of repulsive to me. And then when you're like, yeah, I picked this up for this amount, I'm like, all right, well I could get in a Neon for that little.
Yeah, and the thing I adore about the Neons is there's tons of junkyards, and I could blow a motor. It's $200. End of the day, $200, and there's not many cars like that where you can break a high dollar item. It's only $200.
But I digress. So let's talk specs.
So a 1990 Miata. These are all per the internet like numbers, so don't take them too far to heart. So a Miata weighs 2,100 pounds, makes 116 SAE horsepower at 6,500 RPMs and 100 foot-pounds of torque. The 0 to 62 in 8.86 seconds. And an 01 ACR, 2,560 pounds, 150 horsepower, 136 foot-pounds, and the 0 to 62 in 8.1 seconds.
All right, so hashing those numbers out, you're an enthusiast of both of them.
Yeah.
So there's really not a lot of bias in this. You've owned about the same number of both of them.
And I love both cars with all my heart. They're just awesome cars to me.
In a straight line, who do you pick and why?
I put my money on the ACR. It makes just a little more power. The power to weight is on the ACR side. It's a little bit quicker to 62. I mean, it's just so close. And even though it's front wheel drive, they hook up nice. And the Miata it doesn't make the power till the top end of the power band on those. The Neon just has makes a lot of torque from down low for what it is. So,
on a track like Mid-Ohio. Same driver.
Same driver for both cars. I think I'd put my money on the Miata. The car's shorter, it's a little bit narrower. I think it would rotate better around the corners.
Mm-hmm.
I know it'll rotate a little better around the corners, and I think I'd put my money on the Miata. Not saying the ACR wouldn't put up, we're talking tenths of a second here.
So tenths of a second on a road course style track. What about rallycross?
Again, the stock rear-wheel drive rallycross. In that scenario, the Miata is like what you buy for a stock rear-wheel drive rallycross car. And in Neon, there's a lot of them rallycrossing in the stock front-wheel drive. Depending on the course, it could go either way on that one.
So really, end of the day, the Neon got it in drag racing. The Miata kind of nailed it in road course and rallycross. So at the end of the day, $2,000, you're buying a Miata.
Yeah, on the performance side of things, yeah, I'd buy the Miata.
And some people are listening and they're like, oh, no kidding, you're going to buy a Miata. But you got to look at a Neon. So like, when Wesley told me he's going to buy me a Neon, I laughed in his face. I said, that's stupid. But then when I went and drove even his bone stock Iris first gen Neon, I was really surprised for being NA. And this is, I haven't even told Wesley this because so it was the day we were doing the Raptor MBRP install video. And I had to run to Napa and get some zip ties and shrink wrap for the wiring. And so I drove his Iris. I was really pleasantly surprised. Not just because of like the fit and finish, because I'm kind of a creature comforts kind of guy, but the overall power. Like once you get from like 2,500 to $4,000, there's a lot of power right there. I wasn't even going hard, and I was super, super impressed. And I've driven a turbo Miata, the turbo NA Miata. I've driven an NA Miata. And I kind of would pick a Neon over the Miata A because of practicality.
Well, the one big thing about the Neon for me, I'm 6'4", 280 pounds. The Neon just has a little more room for me.
Right.
And having the extra space is super nice, and insurance is less on them.
Yeah, because I mean, the Miata on paper to an insurance company is a sports car. It is a liability. It doesn't have a roll cage. It's a soft top. And so I would have inherently thought Miata would win, but until you drive a Neon, you don't appreciate what a Neon is.
Yeah. Chrysler really hit the nail on the head with that for a dirt cheap economy car, but they're really, really good track cars. They got banned from SCCA racing in the early 90s for being too competitive.
That's impressive.
It is, and there's not many cars like that. And just like Miatas, they have their own race series. And again, not many cars have their own dedicated race series. End of the day, it's up to you what you buy. And I'm passionate about both these cars, and I think they're great cars. They have their issues like every car, but they're cheap issues to fix.
All right, so that really ends up today's segment. So there you have it. The Miata is the supreme champion when it comes to a budget track car. Our next episode, we want our readers to submit their rides to go head-to-head in our segment, Car Wars. Send us your modifications, your stats, and we'll look up the rest. Unless you have weight modifications, send us your overall weight. We really want this to be inclusive. We want people to go head-to-head, and then maybe eventually they'll get to race in real life. So send us those stats to media@honestSpeedShop.com or send us a message on Facebook and Instagram. Our handles across platform is Honest Speed Shop. All that being said, remember, enjoy what you drive.